Monday, October 30th, 2017, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. I want to talk about the term apocalypse, and the Greek, ancient Greek definition is a disclosure of knowledge or revelation. And I have to say, these last few days, since the JFK files have been released, that's what we've had. First of all, the files admit that the Surgeon General said that JFK was shot from the front, from the overpass, as well as from the back. So that means the lone gunman theory, that's what it was from the Warren Commission report, is just fiction. So they need to move the Warren Commission report from the in the library to the fictional section. They've admitted as well, one of the files that came out, CIA file, admitted that Adolf Hitler was seen in Colombia in 1954, and that he went by the name of Adolf Schutomeyer, and that he was alive still in 1955, that he'd moved from Colombia to Argentina. So this has come out. Alex Jones is publicized that. He's come out on InfoWars yesterday and talked about these files being released. But you look at the mainstream media, for example, the Daily Mail. I'm looking here. There's nothing about the JFK files. Bombshell information that Adolf Hitler was alive back in the 1950s. To me, it's not surprising because I've always been interested in digging the truth and being a critical thinker and looking at stories. Of course, I've been called a conspiracy theorist, but I think conspiracy theory basically means a knowledge, people who have knowledge that the powers that be, in this case, the deep state, shadow government, CIA, knowledge that they don't want the public to know. And that's why they even came out with the term conspiracy theory back in the 60s. The Daily Telegraph, nothing about it. So it's not even that the mainstream media lies about these things, it's just that they don't even publicize it. These are the two biggest stories to come out in years. The fact that JFK conspiracy, there was a conspiracy to kill him. There's not just one lone gunman, as Poppy Bush said in his eulogy to President Gerald Ford at the Washington Cathedral, and smirked even when he said, there's a lone gunman, and he smiled. The other one, that Hitler was, committed suicide in this bunker, which is total, fabrication. So we're finding out that a lot of what we've been told is fiction. To me, as I said, is not too surprising. It's being made public. Will the fake media or mainstream media try to bury it again? It sure looks like they're doing a good job of it. My wife turned on the radio this morning, LBC here in London. Nothing about that. They're talking about Catalonia or Spain. Nothing about the JFK files, which is bombshell information in my opinion. And talking about conspiracy theories, the other one that people like me who believe, in gold as money, not because we have any, how can I say, faith or religion. It's not a religion, it's just a fact. Even J.P. Morgan, probably the most important banker of the early 20th century, said, gold is money. That's it. Nothing else. And everything else is credit. So that's the other conspiracy theory. The other fact that the establishment, the CIA, the Federal Reserve, the central bankers, and they all work together, these groups. CIA, basically the Federal Reserve is the financing arm for the shadow government or deep state. They don't want to use gold as money. They don't want the public to go to gold because they wouldn't have as much flexibility. They wouldn't have as much financing. It would be a lot more difficult for them to bring about their new world order, globalist dream. So what do? People who try to expose the manipulation of every market, but especially the gold market, because that's the most important market. You let the gold market and silver market trade freely, and people will soon, the public will soon realize that the monetary system we have is a total fraud. So they have to keep, they have to disparage gold bugs. They, bullion banks have to forecast, stupid prices every year, 3-month targets. And I know this because I used to work in the city and I used to follow, back in the early 2000s, they're forecasting, oh, gold is going to be at 450 by 2008. And then we expect it to go down to 350. And that was like in 2004 and 5. They make these silly forecasts to keep people away from trade, owning precious metals. They do not encourage people to buy physical gold coins and physical silver coins. They try to get people to speculate, so they get burned, and then they say, oh, gold is a horrible investment, it's too risky. It's all part of this game. So my question, and Bill Murphy has been, I have to give him credit for almost 20 years now. I think he started out 99, 2000, looking at this manipulation of the precious metals market. And he's still at it, and I've followed him since about 2002 and 3. It gets tiring, probably for him, because people still ignore him. But maybe this is the next shoe to drop for the shadow government, deep state. It's maybe this is quite apocalyptic, in my opinion. All these revelations that are starting to come out, and we'll probably see a lot more attack on President Trump as this goes on. I think this is quite a battle. I guess I've been a bit skeptical about Trump, and I'm not, all I'm saying is I think actually he's using the old strategy that you need to be closer to your enemies than to your friends. So sometimes it does seem that he's, not going to drain the swamp. He's an establishment guy. He's hired the Goldman Sachs boys. But maybe you need to keep your friends really close to you, your enemies, sorry, really close to you to actually come out and fight and beat them. And these files, the fact that he released them is a big thing. And for me, these two things, JFK was not just a lone gunman. That just goes to show that it was a conspiracy, between, from what I think, it's, it's the shadow government, the CIA, the CFR, even the Italian, the mafia, criminal underground that work with the CIA. They're all in it together because JFK wanted peace, and these people, and he was cracking down on the mafia as well, him and his brother, and they didn't like that. So he was going against the shadow government, the criminal underground, and I think that's what happened. They said, you can't do that, we'll get rid of you and we'll put someone in that will do our bidding, LBJ. So yeah, this is pretty amazing. Interesting, though, that the mainstream media is not talking about it. If anything, they're attacking Trump even more, even though he's lifting, the veil for everyone to see what's been happening. I heard an interview on Alex Jones, a video he made yesterday, and one of the callers came out and said, well, the reason he released these files is that he wants to show the public what they're, the deep state or the shadow government together, what they're capable of if you don't play by their rules. So he's trying to defend himself, probably. So Yeah, there's so many things. I mean, one of the reasons why I started looking also at Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. I've always been interested in that war, Second World War. And I've read many books. And one of the books I read actually was a book by James Meishner called Space. It's a novel. He wrote it in the 80s. I read it probably in the late 80s. And in this book, he talks about, you know, Operation Paperclip, basically, how the U.S. government, it was a top secret U.S. government mission to rescue all these German rocket scientists from Peenemünde in northern Germany, just at the end of the war. And when I read this book, you know, I told myself, what else have they done? You know, Operation Paperclip. And I think a lot of these people infiltrated the CIA. So it's all related. And then you have the news that Adolf Hitler was alive in 1955. You know, and then you have Bilderberg starting in 1954. And you have the European Union project, which I've made a video about, that the German High Command met in, I think, 1942 and talked about forming a European Economic Union or community. It just all sounds really, you know, it's all like fitting together. The public still asleep. They don't look at these things. If you tell them, you know, they roll their eyes, even though the files are coming out. And I'll put the link to the CIA file below for you to see about Adolf Hitler still being alive in 1955. There's a photo of him in 1954 in Colombia. And the city he was living in, I forgot the name now, but I looked up on Wikipedia, and the city he was living in Colombia was like 3,000 meters or almost 10,000 feet above sea level. So even though Colombia is a tropical country, where he lived was very subtropical, and it was like living very comfortably in Europe during the spring. So it fits, you know, someone from Germany coming to South America, they want to live somewhere where it's not very hot. So it all makes sense. So what about the markets? This morning, spot gold, I think it should be higher, but it's lower. It's 1270.30, down 3.5. Silver down 10 at 1674. The Dow is down 33. S&P is down 5 points. So stock market down a little. NASDAQ up 1.6 points, not much there. The pound is a bit stronger, up 30 pips. Euro's up 22 pips at 116.30. And the dollar is a little weaker against the yen, 113.62. When will we get the shoe to drop for precious metals? When will the revelations and the uncovering come? Maybe they never will. Maybe the central banks have a good hold of the secrets, but you never know. With all the stuff coming out through the Trump administration, we could get a lot more disclosure. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Twitter and also on steemit.com. Talk to you later. Bye.